You're listening to the Team Stripes podcast.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to episode 91 of the Team Stripes podcast, proudly presented by ACME Whistles, helping you make the big calls since 1870. The legendary ACME Thunderer is now available in matte black. ACME Whistles, proudly associated with the NHL since 1917. As always, I am joined by Ross. How are you today, Ross?
Dude, it's great. I'm good. I'm very happy. My season is over. I am done skating until the fall. I plan on doing a little bit of men's league here and there, just like maybe one set a month just to get on the ice. But for the most part, I'm done. So I'm very happy. How are you?
I guess I'm jealous of you. We still, we just got done state high school last night. We just finished wrapping that up, got to skate that game, and I feel like we're going to be in April, and I still feel like we're in full swing hockey season. We still have a month left of the
You got natties coming up. You got the
we have
still.
nationals. We got the NAL, the NA3 starting their playoffs. I guess it would be this weekend. Kind of seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, but still it feels so far away at this point.
Yeah, about the only thing I have left on my calendar is men's nationals. I'm probably gonna put into work the over 40s, just because that's always a good time.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
But yeah, like I said, I'm done. I'm gonna skate sparingly throughout the summer. I got some other projects I want to work on, between hockey and a potential internship that I was telling you about. So yeah, good times. We got a lot to talk about today. We have an awesome interview that you missed out on, but it's okay. I think all of our weekly listeners are going to love listening to this. This interview, especially for our female officials, this is going to be awesome. Our guest this week is 2010 Olympian Kelli Rolstad, or Kelly O'Brien is her maiden name. So that's the name she went or had when she went to the Olympics. So yeah, Kelli Rolstad is our guest this week. We'll get to that, but I guess let's go ahead and get started with some clips.
Yeah, let's just jump right in. Where do you want to start? Do you want to start with the Lucic one?
Yeah, let's go ahead and start with this Milan Lucic hit. And it's so funny, like in our pre-show meeting, you're talking about Lucic, and in my head, he still plays for the Boston Bruins. So I'm looking at this clip. It's the Jets and the Flames. Do they have fans in the stands, or those cardboard cutouts?
They're cardboard cutouts in Calgary.
Okay. All right, fair enough. So we have a player on the Jets kind of putting himself in a really bad spot, trying to clear the puck out of the zone, and Lucic just kind of freight trains him. Lucic is going to make a play on the puck. The Jets player beats him there, does like the spin around chip shot to get it out of the zone. So pro hockey, this is an interesting one. You can call boarding there. You could not call anything. The player gets hurt. You can call, your majors, your game misconducts, that kind of stuff. It's one of those, the player sets himself up to get hit like that. So pro hockey, that's kind of a dealer's choice, I feel like, as far as whether or not you're going to make that call there. But obviously moving down into whether it be junior NCAA or USA hockey, boarding minor in the NCAA or junior book, or USA hockey, easily a 2 and a 10 or a 5 in a game there, because he does go head first.
Yep.
So, and he pops right back up. I believe if I remember seeing the full clip.
Yeah, he popped right back up after.
Yeah, he was fine, not a big deal. But either way, youth hockey, 100%. We're going 5-game, check from behind, because he does go head first.
I mean, Lucic is going for the loose puck. Buddy kind of swivels around, cuts him off, and Lucic doesn't throw him into the boards.
No, exactly. Like,
Lucic
he tries to let up.
Yeah, like there's momentum there. There's obviously contact. I mean, there was no penalty on the play, but Lucic knew right away. Like, I mean, he ended up fighting literally 2 seconds after that because he knew he had to.
Yeah, you got to answer the bell for that kind of a hit. And that's the nice thing about pro hockey is you hit a guy like that, you don't necessarily get a penalty, but you got to drop the gloves.
Yeah. I mean, I was fine with a no call there. I would also be 110% on board if they went 2 for a boarding or something along those lines. Just because
it's one of those things, like it's a dealer's choice as a referee. And it's one of those hits where you see it happen as a ref. You're like, okay, now my radar's up. I'm ready to go because I think we're going to get a fight here. And sure enough, there was a fight.
I mean, Lucic turned around and he was just waiting for somebody.
So that number 24 defenseman, I assume, is who fought him? From the clip?
Somebody came from the other wing and like at the hash marks was like, we're fighting.
Gotcha.
And Lucic and him met in the middle and had a good little scrap about it, which
Perfect.
I mean, that's how it should be.
And you know what? A hit like that, if the referees don't call it and the players police it, I'm perfectly okay with that too, because Lucic does end up in the box for 5 minutes for that hit. All right, so let's get into this call again in the Edmonton-Toronto game.
Yeah, Yamamoto's putting Marner into the boards.
Okay, so Marner kind of trips in the slot. His momentum carries him towards the boards. Right as he gets up, Yamamoto cross-checks him in the lower back. So the NHL guys, the guys working the game, I don't think had a penalty call here. Again, that's another kind of dealer's choice kind of play in pro hockey. They could have easily put their arm up and given Yamamoto a penalty there. I think lower down again with just like the Lucic hit, we're talking USA probably 210 board, 210 check from behind. Junior minor board, NCAA minor board, or minor cross check, either way.
Yeah, I mean, definitely USA and like Hockey Canada, youth hockey, 210 board. I'm all on board for that one.
Yep.
My issue is like you said he tripped. He got cross checked originally down in the slot there.
So Yamamoto cross-checked him twice.
Yeah, so that's my thing. Like, I'll give you the first cross-check in the slot, and like, okay, sure. But then the second cross-check, like, okay, major penalty, no, not even close. But like, I still think there should be even an interference because I mean, he takes Martin completely out of the play. You want to call interference, boarding, cross-check. Like, you have a variety of minor penalties you could call there.
Yeah,
and to me, like, that's not a hockey play. Like, Yamamoto is not making a hockey play there. He's trying to take
Marner out of the play. The fact that he got him twice, for me, is more than enough reason to put him in the box.
Yeah, because you gave him the first one, and then the second one, you're like, dude, like, come on. I tried to give you the first one.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's kind of just how I saw that one. I think interference, cross-check, I mean, easy sells. He's not making a hockey play.
I mean, even... So like that one in the slot, cross-check or rough, because USA would rather those get called a rough than a interference.
Yeah.
Which is, something that I know they've put out in some of their videos recently. It's like, hey, don't call interference on this stuff. Let's start calling these roughings because we want an interference on a pick. We don't want an interference on a hit away from the puck. We got the Jets again and Calgary again. So cross-check to the face. Bye. See ya. I mean,
standalone major at least.
Yeah, minimum standalone major cross-check or high stick. The fact that he gets him in the throat, I'd almost be okay in youth with a match penalty on this for deliberate attempt to injure. Like, let's be honest, with the amount of video that we have out there between Live Barn and everything else, you call this a match, your supervisors are going to have no problems calling it a match. And when it goes for review, they'll either, they'll suspend him, whatever. That's just completely uncalled for, cross-checking a guy in the throat like that.
I don't disagree. I mean, I think I would rather see a major standalone major there because he started the cross check originally got him like upper chest and moved up into the neck and face, which obviously that's why.
Well,
The puck's nowhere near him. I understand that, but like he's not hurt off it. Like,
that's the thing with the match is he deliberately for me personally, I feel like that's a deliberate, like you're trying to get the guy in the throat.
yeah,
I mean, I get it rides up, but I feel like for youth hockey, that's the kind of stuff we don't want. So you go to the match or you go major game cross check, which if he doesn't get injured, it's kind of hard to sell the major game cross check.
correct.
Whereas if you go match and say, hey, that's deliberate attempt to injure, that's an easy sell. And then you let supplemental discipline take care of it from there. I just with everything that's happened, at least over the last month of my officiating, I've gotten to the point where, and I've told our state supervisor this, I'm like, I've gotten to the point where if I have the option to call a match penalty, I'm just going to do it, because at this point it's easier to call the maximum and let supplemental discipline take care of it than it is for me to be the nice guy and, I'm just going to give him a 2 and a 10, or I'm just going to give him a 10-minute misconduct. Like with the things that have happened that I really don't want to go into. I feel like it's in our best interest to let's go with that zero tolerance policy. And hey, if you feel like a guy is deliberately trying to injure a guy and you know that this game's on video, call the match, let the video get submitted, and let the administrators figure it out. Does that make sense?
Yes, I just would rather not have a kid sitting for 30 days for something like that.
Yeah. Well,
And like I get it, like
don't do it.
I do not disagree 100. Like, just don't do it. Don't be an idiot on the ice.
Yep.
But I also think, like, for me, like, if I'm calling a match penalty, like, it better be like everybody in the building knew that that kid wasn't trying to play hockey.
Yeah, I get it. It's just
like, for all we know, like, I mean, it's a 9-second clip of a cross check. For all we know, him and the Jets and Majapani have been going at it the whole shift, like cross checking / whatever. So I kind of think that's where I lean into, hey, just go standalone major cross check, especially in youth hockey. You have it, do it, send a message of like, yo, this isn't acceptable. But you're lucky you didn't hurt the kid.
Yeah. I mean, it's a coin flip, I would say. I mean, you're more than justified in just doing the standalone major too. I don't know, man. With the level of disrespect that's come our way, or at least down here, lately, I have no issues just going to the max. Like, that's just kind of where I'm at right now. But I'm taking a long break.
Sounds like you need a break.
I'm taking a long break, and there's a reason for it. I'm just, we all get to the point where we are burnt out, and we're like, you know what? You go to the box, you go to the box, you go to the box, you get a match, you get a game. I don't care anymore. It's not that I don't care, but it's more just like, hey, I have the option. It's there. I know this is on video. I'm just gonna let the administrators take care of it.
For sure. I think we've all been at that point. I know at the start of March, I was ready to throw my gear out the side of the window and just pretend it never happened.
So then moving on, we have the Bruins and the Devils. This one's a no-brainer. Elbow directly to the head, like direct contact. Yep. Don't pass go. Don't collect $200.
5 games, smell you later.
You see the low referee, his arm's halfway up before he even hits the guy. Well, no, it was a little.
No, he popped it up though.
Yeah.
He thought he pumped it at first, and then he went, oh, because I think what originally he thought was that puck was going to get rimmed down low, so he was starting to move, and then he saw the hit and was like, oh shit.
Yeah. So I mean,
as you should on one of those hits.
That's an easy one. That happens in a youth game again. Deliberate attempt to injure. If you want to, it's there. If you want it.
I would just say 5-game head contact
or major game head contact. Either or, you're justified on either.
I think a match is a bit much there.
See, I'm just at the point right now. It's like you get a match, you get a match.
Yeah,
but it's just one of those things. Like at minimum, that kid or that player shouldn't be in the game the rest of the game. We need to get this stuff out of the game. Like these players are only going to get it. The only way they're going to get it is when we start giving out major games for stuff like this.
I agree.
It's that simple. Like, and don't be afraid to go to the bench. Be like, dude, he hit him in the head. What do you want me to do?
Well, and that's the thing. Like a major game, there's an easy sell. Like you go straight over to the coach, even if he's yelling. You go over and be like, "Coach, he hit him directly into the head by the rule book. By the rule book, it says if he hits him in the head, if he hits him directly or recklessly in the head,
done."
Yeah, like a coach couldn't because then the next thing out of his mouth would be like, "Oh well, yeah," and you're like, "Yeah, if that hit happened to you, what do you want called?"
Yep.
And I guarantee you, he's going to want a major game.
Yeah, exactly. And that same thing carries over into this Dallas Panthers hit.
Pavelski coming up.
Same thing. It's the same hit.
Yeah.
Bye. Like major game. Adios.
So the weird one about this one though is when I first looked at it, the Panthers player's in a bad spot.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter.
Why is Pavelski
like,
coming in to make that hit?
He knows better.
Yeah.
Like we're talking about a guy that's been in the league, 18 years?
Yeah, if not, yeah.
Like, you know better than to come over and hit that guy. There's no reason for the hit. Your winger or defenseman who's on, so your defenseman's on him. He's playing him. He knocks the puck away. Then Pavelski just cycles down and gives the guy a headshot for no damn reason. There's no reason for him to be down there.
Yep.
So, again, boom, see ya. 5-game, adios. And it's another one, like, if, you feel like he targeted, which in the clip, it looks like he traveled the distance to make this hit. I have no problem with a match penalty on this one either. For distance traveled.
In Pavelski's defense, though, had Klingberg not stolen the puck,
like
he's coming up ice with that puck. So, okay, yes, this hit's still going to be high.
Yeah.
But I think it's on Pavelski to just get a little bit lower there as well. Because if he's lower there, clean hit. Like, hey, you put yourself reaching back for a puck head down, like, oh, shit. But, like, on that one, like, Pavelski just didn't try and get low.
I just feel like
straight to the face.
Oh, 100%. And that's it's a guy that's been playing in this league in the National Hockey League for as long as I could remember.
I can't remember a time when he hasn't been in the league.
Fair enough. And let's see. I think, and we'll talk, and that goes along with too, like the McDavid hit.
Yep,
that happened.
Coming across the ice.
Coming across the ice, clips the guy shoulder right to the head. It didn't get called. It happens, but he got fined $5,000 for it.
So really quick,
this
brings up a thing for me. If that hit is any other player, do you think he gets suspended?
Well, I don't think McDavid's ever been suspended for a high hit before, or even fined for a high hit before.
Okay, fair. Then maybe we should change the protocols, because that shouldn't be a fine. That should be a 1-game suspension.
Yeah. Well,
I get it's your very first time. I understand it's your very first time getting in trouble.
Yeah.
But if you are serious about taking these hits out of the game, if you hit a guy in the head, we're not fining you, because $5,000 out of these guys' pockets is nothing. It's pennies.
I know. Well, they make more they would lose more by being suspended for the game than they do with the $5,000.
And it sends a lot bigger of a message.
Yeah.
Because
because you suspend Connor McDavid for a game. Now you're showing everybody, hey, I don't care if you're the best player in our league, which, let's be honest, McDavid's probably the best hockey player in the world.
Yep. 100%.
If not, top 3.
Yeah, there might be some guy over in Russia. We have no clue who about.
Yeah, right. No, well, I was thinking you say McDavid, McKinnon, and Ovechkin as our top 3. That's my top 3 anyway. Kucherov, but
I would agree with
getting into top
3.
5. But anyway, like, you have to send a message, like whether it's McDavid or Ovi hitting a guy like that, or if it was Kucherov or McKinnon. I'm surprised McKinnon's not getting hit in the head this week, because he had a bad week a few weeks ago.
It would just go on with the trend,
right? But yeah, like it just, you send that message. I feel like And too, like these $5,000 fines, I look at it this way: they probably would have just wanted a standalone major called on that hit. If they thought it was worthy of being suspended or getting a game misconduct, they probably would have suspended him. But I think that hit might have just been a major, which is why they only gave him the $5,000 fine.
I don't disagree that the penalty might have just been a major on the ice. And I just think that if you want headshots out of the game completely, like the NHL does, like any good hockey league would, you suspend them. You start at one game and you go from there.
Yeah, and I'm okay with that.
You go whatever 1, 3, 5, 7, 10 the season at that point. I mean 42, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, like I understand it's McDavid. I understand he has never been in trouble before. I don't think he gets that many penalties to begin with.
No.
So like I understand why it's a $5,000 fine.
Yeah.
But if we're serious about getting these out of our game,
mm-hmm.
Wilson did almost the exact same thing and got 7 games for it. Now, granted, Wilson has a history. Sure. It's still the same play. Just the only difference is one guy has a history and one guy doesn't.
Yeah.
Last clip though, Curtis Gabriel making waves again with yet again, guess what it is? Another flying elbow.
Right. Both referees, heck, the goalie's arm went in the air.
Did you see the linesman just point straight? There's a clip, and the linesman's just pointing straight at Gabriel, like, oh no. And Gord Dwyer was reffing the game. He was the back guy that put his arm up immediately.
Yeah, Gord, and is that
29? I couldn't tell you.
Is that Walsh, or is Walsh 28?
Couldn't tell you.
Okay, fair enough.
But Gord,
that's an easy one.
Right in the air. They call a major game on the ice. They review it. They stick with the major game. Curtis Gabriel, see you later. Like, you elbowed the guy in the head. The puck's 30 feet away.
Was initial point of contact a shoulder?
And I think
I'm just curious.
No, and I truly think that's what they were looking at, because the one angle that you see, like looking straight down on it, where the ref gets in the way of the camera, unfortunately, he hits him in the shoulder, but then he comes in with a flying elbow to end it.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm watching the clip again here.
Like, it's one of those ones where it's like, okay, sure, you hit him.
Yeah, so it was shoulder to shoulder initially, but then he shrugged his elbow up.
And then also look where the puck is. Like, they're at the blue.
Yeah, the puck's gone. There's no reason for the hit regardless.
Exactly. Like, and then look at the distance traveled. Like, he came all the way from the bench,
he came across the
top
ice
of the circles to go to the far side blue line when the puck's at over the red.
He skated what, 10 feet there at least?
At least.
So yeah, again, another one. Okay with it.
Yep.
Like,
you
can't do that.
To me, that's textbook of how it should be called every single
time.
Or
what was it? The video I think somebody posted in the group, the Facebook group. It was a lacrosse referees telling him he gets 2 minutes to sit there and think about what he did.
2 minutes to each guy for thinking about what they did. Yeah, I remember that clip.
Oh, I was dying.
I wish we had that penalty too.
Right?
Just 2 minutes, just because.
Rule 101A, you can't do that.
Yep.
Done.
Do you want to send it over to our interview?
Yeah, so let's go ahead and do that. So we're going to say that this interview is brought to you by the Hockey Ref Shop. Hockey Ref Shop is the official U.S. equipment supplier of Team Stripes. They carry a variety of referee products, including beginner packages, sweaters, pants, accessories, protective equipment, fun referee-themed products, and more. They pride themselves on having great service from experienced officials and super fast shipping. I said it right this time. Visit hockeyrefshop.com today to place an order. With that, we will go to our interview with 2010 Vancouver Winter Olympian Kelli Rolstad. The honor of speaking to a woman who has done pretty much everything you can do as a female official in the world of ice hockey. She's done it all. She recently moved to Florida. We are definitely lucky to have her here. It's been an absolute pleasure getting to know her over the past few weeks after getting to meet her at the rink one day and then work some games with her. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce our guest, Kelli Rolstad. Kelli, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, thanks so much for having me.
Well, it's definitely a pleasure to have you on. So I guess really let's just kind of get right to it. So tell us about yourself. Where are you from? When did you start playing hockey?
Oh, I grew up in Minnesota, in suburbia,
Okay.
about 45 minutes northwest of the Twin Cities, which is a little town called Champlin. And I started playing late in life. I didn't start playing until 10th grade, sophomore year in high school.
Okay.
That was the first year it was a varsity sport in the state of Minnesota, I believe due to Title IX, which I found out later in life. I danced for a long time. I played basketball. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say that word. I played pretty much every other sport, and that you could play like outside at the park or whatever, different places. But I ended up playing hockey. My best friend Rachel, she talked me into it in high school because I could skate, and they were
Okay.
starting up a team. Yeah, so I've been roller skating since I could walk. My dad would take us to the roller skating rink every Sunday for 4 or 5 hours. So I could skate okay.
There you go. So
Yeah.
obviously skating is definitely the foundation there to everything that we do. So you said you played varsity girls hockey in high school and it was the first year they had it. That's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then
So
obviously you played all so sophomore, junior, and senior year then?
yeah, and it's a little complicated because when the sport was starting out for women in high school. So sophomore year we combined with Champlin and Anoka, which is across the river, the two cities.
Mm-hmm.
And then the way it was set up, you were only supposed to do 2 years together. So my junior year we were combined, and then senior year we split. And my senior year we only had, I think, 5 players that came back.
Okay.
From the combined team. Most of the players are on the other side of the river in Anoka. And so we recruited all summer, and we had 36 girls on the ice for captain's practice.
Oh, wow.
I had a girl from Thailand and a girl from Czech Republic on either arm that couldn't stand up. But my goal was to have a team and get bodies on the ice. And we actually won our first game. Are you still there? Did that cut you out?
Still here.
Oh,
Yeah, no,
sorry
you're
about
good.
that. We actually won we were 4-0. We started our season 4-0, which is like a miracle. We didn't end up very well, but it was kind of fun to win a couple games right off the bat. So
that's pretty cool, especially having a team where you recruited from all over, and that's a pretty awesome experience. So after high school, where did you go to school? Did you continue playing?
So I played a couple of years non-check men's league at Ridgefield Ice Arena, which is down by the airport in Minneapolis, because my uncle played over there. So
Okay.
Did that for a couple of years, and I went to North Hennepin Community College. My third year, I think it was my third year in officiating. I got a call from Greg Shepard to come work at WCHA because the women's WCHA was starting up. So I mean, it was kind of a whole whirlwind thing.
Then when did you start officiating? Were you still in high school or?
Yeah, we should pull back to that. So senior year in high school, I started officiating just for some extra cash. I used to take a lot of penalties, and I used to take a lot of 10-minute penalties because I like to tell the referees what I thought of them. And one of those referees after the game challenged me. He says, if you know a lot about officiating, maybe you should come officiate. I go, well, I could do that. Mm-hmm. And I showed up at the clinic on Saturday and got certified. But I only did 3 to 5 games the first year. I think the second year I did a lot more because I was out of school. But I mean, it's a good part-time job because nobody will hire you when you like you're doing nights and weekends and you're playing. Mm-hmm. Like McDonald's isn't even going to hire you because you're in the way because your schedule doesn't work out. So it worked out really good.
Yep. And just like I think all of us, you got started at high school, extra money, and then you really fell in love with it, I guess, because like that's really you get exposed to it and the brotherhood and the camaraderie that there is.
You get paid to skate too. I mean, what other job would they pay you to skate? It's amazing. You get to hang out with cool people. Like
exactly.
Yeah.
So 3 years in, you're starting to work WCHA.
Which is a little unreal. I was thinking back last night and about maybe questions you might ask me, but like, I mean, I always remembered my first. So like my first 3-man game was a junior game. I worked at the Champlin Ice Storm for a little while. I drove Zam for a year or for, 6 months or whatever through the season. And the scheduler of the Junior B League, he showed up and he forgot that there was a game. And so he's like, Kelli, you're going to get on the ice. I think I was a level 2 official. Shouldn't have been on the ice. I was scared to death. And the goalie, it was me and him. We started 2-man or 1-1, and the goalie was telling me where to stand and what to do because I didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah.
But I mean, those were the opportunities you had if you just said yes or you showed up. So, just being thrown into the fire was crazy. But yeah,
sometimes it's the best way to learn. That's for sure.
yeah.
So then,
like third year in, I got a call from Greg Shepard, and I just remember because my mom called me and she's like, this guy called, he sounds really important and he's going to call you and he wants you to work this league. And I go, okay. So he called me, and I didn't know what the WCHA was at the time. I wasn't really exposed to a lot of hockey, so I didn't really know. And he asked me if he wanted to work the league, and then he told me he was going to give me all this free equipment, and I was like, that's cool. And then he told me he was going to give me underwear and this and that, whatever. And I kind of got hung up on the underwear thing, and I'm like, sir, this all sounds fantastic, but I don't understand this underwear thing. And he goes, no, it's okay. I mow my lawn in it and I wear it under my, rink stuff at the ice. And I'm like, I just don't understand. Well, he's talking about Bauer underwear, but I had long johns that I wore because I didn't have all that good stuff yet. So, excuse me. So yeah, that's how I met Greg Shepard, and he probably still thinks I'm a little odd too because I didn't know any of this when I started. But that was a good ride. I worked WCHA and a lot of college hockey for about, I think it was 12 years. So.
Oh, wow. That's impressive. So you get started working college hockey, and then I guess really just some other opportunities I assume come about out of that, like within USA Hockey, since, they, the women's game, especially up north, whether you're in Minnesota or in the Northeast, has grown a lot. And even then it was really just kind of getting started. Because like I remember growing up as a kid, we had at the rink in Clearwater, there was this poster. And I'll never forget it. It was 3 female hockey players. I think Cami Granado was one of the girls on the poster. And it was basically advocating for young girls to start playing hockey, as well as, hey, we're good at this. We should have a spot in the Olympics. I'll never forget that poster. It was there for years. And I remember the 98 games, the first year that the women, played in the Olympics, and Team USA won going into it, or won the gold medal that year. And that really, I remember more girls starting to play as a kid when that happened. So about that time, you're probably working college level stuff, correct?
Yeah, that was about that time. One of my mentors, Yvonne Young, I don't know if you know her name or not. She's from Minnesota too. I was lucky enough to have her as a coach and mentor along the way, but she worked Nagano. So that was fun.
That's awesome. So, you're doing, D1 women's hockey for all those years. What on the USA Hockey side, like doing women's nationals and the camps and all that, maybe talk about some of that kind of stuff you got to do.
Sure. So when I think it was pretty close. I can't remember if it was before or after. I'd have to look up the dates, but it was pretty close to the time when I started working WCHA that I went to regional camp, which I believe is called Futures Camp right now, or Prospect Camp. They changed the name since.
Yeah, they changed the names on us.
So I went to regional camp at the time. And that was in Lake Placid, New York, which is my first experience in Lake Placid, New York. It's one of my favorite places to go in the world. It's beautiful. I mean, it's in the middle of the mountains and there's a lake, and it's just a storybook town. But I went there. We stayed on the Olympic Training Center. We got to skate in the 1932 and the 1980 rink, and we went there for a week. And basically, it's like a boot camp. They try and wear you down and see who floats to the top, kind of thing.
Yep.
I went home from that, and I thought I had a pretty good camp, but I don't know. I'm just this girl from Minnesota and trying to figure this whole thing out. But I got a call. I think it was like literally 2 weeks later, and it was from Matt Leaf. And Matt Leaf is, the big guy in USA Hockey when it comes to officiating. And he says, hey, I go by Obi because my maiden name's O'Brien. So he says, hey, Obi, do you want to come back and go to Elite Experience? And that was like a big deal because that's how you get your international certification on the women's side. So that was literally 2 weeks after I went to regional camp. And I'm like, okay. And he says, well, you gotta buy some dress clothes. And I just want to let you know, you might not get your international certification this year, but we're going to work on that in the years coming up if you still do well.
Yeah.
So I didn't get my international and my IIHF certification that year, but I think it was the next year even. But I mean, the opportunities just started lining up. So I went to regional camp. I did well. I went to lead experience that same year. I did well. I mean, what people don't know about officiating too is you do your job on the ice and you keep your nose clean on the ice, but it's also about what you do off the ice too. You don't get in trouble. You don't, I mean, they say like 80% of firings happen for off ice behavior.
Yep.
So that's the behind the scenes a lot of people don't understand too. So I guess I was good enough and kept my nose clean that I didn't get in trouble. And then all of a sudden, I mean, like things just, I look back at it and it feels like another world now because I'm married and I have kids and life is different, but it was just a whirlwind. I skated 364 days a year. I was skating 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 games a day just to make sure that I could be the best that I could. In my prime, I had mentors. I had great mentors at home. I had Michael Heikert, who's passed away now, Dean Brandt. I mean, there's just all kinds of people that helped me out through the ranks. And I was working youth and high school and men's leagues and juniors and college and D1 college, D3 college. And I mean, I was just all over the place. I got opportunities to work the NCAA finals a few times, playoff games, all kinds of stuff. I mean, just crazy stuff.
That's crazy. Like what a whirlwind experience going from, just starting out 3 years in, then you're working college hockey, then you go to, regional camp, elite experience and all that stuff. Like you went 0 to 60 pretty quick there.
Yeah. And 0, let me tell you, my first college games, I probably shouldn't have been out there. I was brutal, man. I was like, I mean, but you don't know when you're starting, but I got better, I think.
Yeah. I mean, that's how we learn. Like you go to when you make that next step, you're like, okay, I probably shouldn't be out here, but I'll figure it out. And I'm going to go from there. So you mentioned you work juniors. What leagues did you work on the junior side? And what was it like being a female official working boys junior hockey?
I worked most of my games, the bulk of my games were the Minnesota Junior B League in Minnesota. So it was the MJHL. I think it's called the MNJHL now.
Yep.
And then I worked some America West games and I worked some USHL games too. I might have worked some other stuff somewhere in there. I was actually the first woman or female to go to Junior B Nationals too, which is pretty cool.
That's pretty awesome.
That's like one of my, I wear that proud because I love the junior league because it's just fun because they play so hard. There's so much adrenaline, testosterone in a closed area and you never know what's going to happen. So it's fun for me to work still, but yeah, Oh, so, yeah. So being the only girl on the ice, I worked a couple junior games with Leah Rosillo, but that was later in my career, like right before I went to the Olympics, and I went back to work juniors before the Olympics to get ready. But I really didn't work with any girls really going up through the ranks because there weren't any in my area that worked at the time. I think there were like 3 in the country that worked at that time, females. But I call it the triple take when I get on the ice, and I had fun with it. I thought it was hilarious. So sometimes they do the 1 to see who's working. They do the 2, but they would actually like turn around and skate backwards and look at me because they found out I was a girl and they're like, what's going on? So I call it the triple take. Like, that's
so funny.
Well, I had fun with it. I thought it was great. Yeah.
So then you mentioned, the leading up to the Olympics and all that. When did you get your international card? And then from there, like what tournaments did you work leading up to, the end of, being the Olympic experience that you had?
Okay. So when did I get my international certification? I think it was it 2004 or 5 maybe?
Okay.
I don't recall the exact date. I'd have to go back and look that up, but I'm guessing that date because in 2006 was the Olympics in Salt Lake City. And I went to 4 Nations Cup the year before. That was at the Salt Lake City. It was where they were having the Olympics. So in Provo and then in Utah or Salt Lake. So I skated those 2 rinks. I got to skate at those 2 rinks. And that was my first quote unquote real international tournament, although we had all USA officials, but that was the only differential. Usually when you're doing an international tournament, you get officials from all over the world, but they had us just do it, United States officials. That was a really cool experience because it was set up like an international tournament, and how they would run it. The coolest thing about that though was the fans were obnoxious and loud and unbelievable, because what they did was they bussed in all the school kids.
Oh, wow.
And they had them like research Finland and Sweden and USA and Canada and, the 4 teams that were there.
Yep.
And they had them cheer for their teams, and they were just loud. And it was a great experience on the ice because you had to figure out how to officiate without talking to each other or yelling at each other. There was no verbal communication. It was all awareness. It was all eye contact. It was all making sure you were paying attention.
As far as the verb, was that like, were they doing that on purpose, trying to get you guys to work in that like loud environment, high stress kind of deal? Or is that just how it played out because of how loud it was?
I think it was a byproduct. I mean, it was a good experience for us, and I can't imagine they didn't think that was a good experience for us. But they brought the kids in because they wanted the volunteers for the Olympics in a year to be able to practice and get ready for that.
Oh, okay.
And so they wanted to know like how to sit people and how to deal with stuff and like what their jobs were. So it was more about training them than it was about training us. But as a byproduct, it did train us.
Things you don't think about going into the like. Who trains the ushers? Like stuff like that.
And they got them trained, I'm sure. I mean, it was wild. It was loud. It was fun. I mean, the kids were really good. They were well behaved and everything, but it was like they were yelling and chanting and they had their cheers, and it was cool.
So then the 2006 games happened. A woman who's actually another woman in our district, Stacy Levinston, did those. Trying to remember who else.
She's a fantastic person.
Oh my gosh, unreal. I got to meet her. A buddy of mine lived in Virginia, and I got to. She came to a U18 game. Him and I were working while we were passing through Virginia, and she supervised us. It was awesome, and
she's phenomenal. Yeah.
Oh, unreal. So then from there, we're going into the next Olympic cycle. After the 06 Olympics, obviously 2010 is next. Did you have any sort of idea that you might be on the radar to get to go? What stuff were you doing? What games were you working to really either get ready, or just the games that you were doing that kind of set you up for getting picked?
Yeah. So, I mean, basically it was, I had a conversation with Matt Leaf every once in a while, and I'm like, what do I need to do, and what league should I work, and whatever. So I had this pecking line of what games I would take from what league. And then it comes down to good communication too. Because if you tell the schedulers what's going on in your head and they don't have to guess, then it doesn't create a problem for them. So I took my WCHA games, and I take my junior games, and I take my high school games, and I take my youth games, and it just kind of went down from there. Okay. And then I'd fill in with whatever I could grab. But I was skating a lot. You kind of knew if you were on the radar or not, but you didn't know for sure until you got the call. There was never that until you got the call.
Now, were you getting any international assignments and doing world championships or at any division, or so
for my first world championship was, oh Lord, this is a long time ago. It feels like yesterday, but not, right? I went to Calgary. Did I go to Calgary first? No, I think I went to Halifax, Nova Scotia first, which is beautiful. It was cold. It was January or something. And I can't remember if that was A pool or 18 unders. I've gone to A pools and 18 under. Those are the only that I've done other than the 4 nations. Okay. So I went to Calgary for one. I went to Halifax, Nova Scotia. I went to Norrköping and Lidköping, Sweden, which was cool. That was a new experience. That was the only over the pond that I done. And then I did Vancouver.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And so then from there, and I completely forgot to ask you, were you a referee or a linesman?
Oh, I'm a linesman by trade.
Perfect. So am I. So we're all linesmen here. That's for sure. And
Yeah.
it was, it was a lot of fun this past Saturday getting a line with you, by the way, because it was fun, like working the blue line, like getting to work with somebody that's worked at your level, and just some of the other guys that we have in the state. It's fun because like we get to line together, and lining's like our thing. So
Yeah,
anywho,
well, and
so
I told you when we were on the ice, but you're solid. You're fun.
I
You do good job out there too.
So what was it like getting that phone call
So first of all,
when you were
yeah,
told that you're going?
yeah. So first of all, I was working a full-time job, like 60 hours a week. I was at a Fortune 500 company. I was a business analyst. So
Okay.
at CH Robinson out in Eden Prairie, and I got a phone call when I was at work. So I slipped into a conference room, and it was Matt Leaf on the phone, and he says, "Hey, Obi, what do you?" It was in October, I believe, that I got the phone call, and he goes, "Hey, what are you doing in February?" And I just about, well, I think I lost it. I did. I lost it. And I go, nothing. What am I doing in February? And he goes, well, you're going to have to reply to the email. So I have a formal response, but they want you to come work the Olympics. And so I lost it. And then I called my mom, and then I called my husband, and then, yeah, but I wasn't supposed to tell anybody, so I shouldn't tell that, but I did call my mom. Yeah.
Well, I mean, let's be honest. Like, you got to call mom first.
Yeah. Cause mom's everything. That's just how it works. Yeah. And then, I mean, the first thing I did after I kind of calmed down is I called this place over in Bloomington, and Bloomington Ice Gardens at the rink. And my buddy Eric, he runs this place called E-Train, and it's a treadmill.
Okay.
And
is it one of those skating treadmills?
It is. But this guy is phenomenal. I mean, you're only as good as the person behind the treadmill, like training you. And this guy is the best. And he's phenomenal. So I called him, and he's like, well, come on over. When can you come over? So twice a week, I would go over there during my lunch hour, and I'd take 2 hours. I worked this out with my boss. I'd go over there 2 hours, and I'd skate on the treadmill for an hour twice a week. And then I'd work my WCHA games or junior games on the weekend, or if I'd pick up an extra game on Sunday if I had college games. And then I was still working a full schedule. It just, it's just how it worked. I skated a lot. I went to the gym. I went skated on the treadmill. I didn't eat, breathe, do anything but hockey until I got to February.
Were there any warm-up games as far as the women's stuff go? Like, did USA Canada do their like normal series against each other leading into the Olympics? Did you work any of that?
I think they did, but we didn't work it. I think they had the Canadian officials work those. So when I got in, it was, I mean, I worked the first game. I worked the first game, the opener of the Olympics.
Okay.
For the women's, and I didn't have any games up till, I mean, I skated 3 days earlier because I had flown in, and I was skating till the end. So
okay. So you get to Vancouver. Were you there for like the opening ceremonies? As officials, do they get to be part of that kind of stuff, representing Team USA, or are you guys kind of separate off to the side? Like, I haven't actually ever gotten to ask someone that's been to the Olympics, like, what, as an official, like, obviously you're there working so like, how does that all work?
Yeah. So when we got there, so we flew in the day before the opening ceremonies, I believe. So the next night was the ceremonies. We were there for 19 days. We stayed in Holiday Inn downtown Vancouver too, which is kind of, so we weren't in the village. Some people like to ask that too. So we got in, we all went as a team to the opening ceremonies.
Okay.
And we all sat together. We watched, we didn't walk through.
Yeah.
So that was a little bit different than the athletes too, but we got to be a part of it. We got to see, and then we also got to go to the closing ceremonies too. I had this nifty little pass that got me into anything hockey.
Okay.
So my lanyard got me into any women's or men's hockey games. So we got to see quite a few of those. We got to see both the USA Canada men's and women's games.
Oh, that's awesome.
Which is cool because they were
what was the atmosphere? I mean, obviously the outcome wasn't what we as Americans wanted. I remember I had just joined the military, and I had about 30 people in my dorm room, and we were watching the men's gold medal game. And when Sydney scored that goal in overtime, it was the loudest collective amount of cursing I'd ever heard in one room. Because obviously, like, most of these guys had no clue about hockey, but it was, Team USA is playing, so we're in there watching it. What was it like being, I mean, obviously, Canada won, but what was it like being in the building in Vancouver and seeing them, do that? Like, how cool was that?
Well, for one, it was really tough because as officials, even though we're not working that game, like we can't cheer. Like we were actually told that, but it's an unwritten rule too. If you officiate, you're not supposed to cheer or have comments or whatever. And we're sitting up in the VIP area. So literally Wayne Gretzky is like 2 sections over from us, and the King and Queen of Switzerland or Sweden are sitting next to us. And I'm trying to think of who else we saw, but there's just names all over the place and it's crazy. So, not being able to cheer or whatever you want to do, you just sit there and you're sitting on your hands. But when that happened, I think it was even harder for me to walk back to the hotel than it was during the game, because we walked from downtown back to the hotel, and it's a few miles, no big deal. And we're wearing suits and we're dressed up, whatever. And everybody's trying to give you high fives, and they're all drinking and drunk because they're excited Canada won and you're in Canada, and you're just dodging high fives.
You're like I can't.
And the Canadian officials are giving high fives, and that's okay. I'm not going to tell on them, or they're not going to get in trouble. But like, I'm just like, no.
So to the games then, how many games did you end up working? What was like a highlight for you? What was it like working with female officials from around the world that you just met that week?
Yeah, so I worked 5 games in total. I worked the first game, and then I was lucky enough to get the gold medal assignment too. So I worked the USA Canada game at the end, which was one of the highlights. Actually, one of the highlights too for me was I got assigned to, I think it was Finland, Sweden.
No, oh wow, what? That's a big one too.
I can't remember if it was Finland, Sweden. I think it was Finland, Sweden, but they had just fought at 4 Nations. Okay. So I was really excited. For some reason, in my gut, I just wanted to work that game, because I'm like, this is a junior game on the ice with girls, and they're going to just blow each other up. Like, there was an all-out brawl on this thing. And I was like, when I heard about that, I was like, when I stepped in to work the Olympics and I found out that this had happened, and, I knew about the background and stuff, I'm like, that's the game I want to work. Like, if I don't get the gold game, I want to work this game. So when I got that assignment, I was really pumped. So they put Leah on the as a referee spot on that. Leah Rosillo she's from Duluth, Minnesota.
Okay.
And then I was on the Lions, and we worked with, I think it was a girl from Finland, Anna. And it was wild. Like it was great. I had to be in between every line change. I had to get there for every stoppage. I mean, the first 5 minutes between Leah like calling penalties and me being in the middle of it, it was kiboshed. It was great. I mean, like we took the game and took we just kept them playing, kind of thing. I mean, it wasn't overstepping boundaries, but it was just keeping it in mind so that they actually played. It was
the first, obviously she's setting the tone as a referee, and then being a good linesman like we are, we're putting out fires where we can.
Exactly.
What was it like communicating with the players? So, I mean, are they mostly, good enough? Like, is their English good enough to be able to like, hey, here's what's going on? Like, is there any kind of communication issues as far as that goes?
Yeah. So first I'll tell you that you find out really quick when you work international hockey that everybody knows the F word, but then they pretend not to know any other English. And then sometimes they have an interpreter on the bench, but most of them know English. Probably they speak English better than I do. Like, I mean, So, for the most part, they all of them knew English. There were a few that maybe, not so good, or, pretended not to when the referee had to come over, but they talked English.
That's my favorite is working guys that out of nowhere, like you're trying to explain something. They're like, I don't know what you're saying.
Yeah. But the thing is, the other thing is that most people don't realize, I mean, I think they know maybe when you tell them about it, but they don't realize this, but most of the female hockey officials that were in the Olympics, like from each team, they had a lot of their players going to school in the States because they get scholarships there.
Yeah, that's true.
So like a lot of the Canadians and French Canadians, they have, they go to school out East, or they go to school in the Midwest, or, I mean, ECAC.
Yeah, they're all playing
Hockey East or
D1 or
WCHA. Yeah.
Mhm.
And then Finland, Sweden, a lot of those girls got drafted to Duluth because Shannon Miller would recruit them.
Yeah.
There were a few there was a Finland goalie. I mean, like that went to the U of M, Minnesota. Like,
Mhm.
I mean, they all played in the WCHA, ECAC, or Hockey East. So I'd seen them before too. Like a lot of
Yeah.
them knew me already. And because
Oh,
I
okay.
worked the league every weekend, it was a rapport thing.
That's
So,
awesome.
Yeah. So, I mean, like I remember during the gold medal game and some other games too, but mainly during the gold medal game. So we had Ina Huve, who was from Norway, and she was reffing.
Okay.
And then you've got me, the USA, on the lines, and then you've got a Canadian Heather on the lines.
Okay.
And the thing is, there's weird rules in the IIHF. Like if you shoot your puck out of the defensive zone, directly out of the defensive zone, you get a penalty.
Yeah.
And I think we had 2 or 3 of those in the gold medal game, something absurd.
Yeah.
And so Carolyn Ouellette, who is the captain of Team Canada at the time, she's running over to me and asking me questions. Kelly, what's going on? Well, she went to Duluth, so I saw her every weekend for 4 years. I mean, so there was a level of comfort that I had with them too, which was really nice. But that's how
I'm sure that made
set it
doing
up.
the games easier. Like the fact that you know all the women that are on the ice as far as
and their
players
tendencies
go.
and
Yeah.
their demeanor and it helps. It helps
and
a
then
lot.
as far as just like working with the international officials, obviously IIHF does things a lot differently as far as like their procedures go than like USA Hockey or Hockey Canada. I think don't they split the ice down like the middle, left side, right side instead of like blue line for the linesmen?
As far as I know, it was it's same way for USA Hockey.
Gotcha.
Yeah, but I mean,
somebody was trying
to. It may
to
have changed when they went to 4-man because they only did 3-man when I was there. They did 1-2 when I was there, so they may have changed it.
Okay.
I've been out of the IHF loops for a long time.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough.
But you asked a question earlier too about how it was like going in and working with officials from other countries. That's it's kind of like when I was in Minnesota, I would work games with everybody. I didn't care who it was. I would just show up, and whatever level it was, and whatever skill level I'm at, whatever skill level they're at, like that's how you mesh together.
Yeah.
And I guess from the standpoint, it kind of it helped me a lot because when I walked into a game, I didn't care who was on the ice. I just did my job, and if I knew the not the sequence, but the positioning, and I knew I knew the rules, and I did my job, and I was doing my job right, then it was really easy to work with other officials too. Now, if they didn't like some things or they brought some things from back home that were different or whatever, we might have to talk about those in the locker room, but it's just like any other game you're working kind of thing.
Sure.
I just went to the table the same way.
That's awesome. Like getting that experience is just so, and then obviously, so you did the Sweden Finland game, gold medal game, which like that's top of the mountain, right? Like, as far as for on the women's side, like that's absolutely amazing that you got to like work a game that not many people, male or female, have ever gotten to do, is a gold medal game at the Olympics. So like for that, like that's just unreal.
And they told us that I wasn't supposed to get the game. Like they told us going into it that they weren't going to let any USA work USA. They weren't going to let Canadians. You're not going to work your own country. Is basically what they said. And so when I got the assignment, we were out shopping. I walked into the hotel room and I kind of saw they slid the assignment under the door for this game. And it was face down. So I walked in. I think I even stepped on it because I was like, well, I'm not working. I already worked 4 games. Probably not going to get another assignment. I was kind of trying to brush it off so I didn't, get hurt by not getting another one. And I walked in, I'm like, I should probably look at it. So I threw everything down and I took a look at it and I'm like, oh my gosh, my name is on the list. Yeah, exactly. I'm like, my name's on the list. And I started bawling. And then I looked at it and I was like, okay, so I'm working the bronze medal game. This is great. Like Finland, Finland, Sweden, this is great. I'm gonna work this game. And then I looked at, because I was like, I better make sure I'm not a backup before I get too excited, right? Like I'm not, because they had backups for each game and full judges. And I'm like, okay, so I look at it and I'm like, well, wait a second. The order was different. Everything international is different. The clock counts up, the time goes up, or down. It's like, so I looked at it and I go, well, wait a second. I'm on the gold medal game. Like I'm working the gold medal game. So I start bawling and I call my mom. And then she starts bawling. She's like, Kelly, what's wrong? I'm calling her at work and she's like, what's wrong? And I go, I go, Mom, I'm working the gold medal game. And she goes, no, you're not. You can't work that game. The US is playing. And they had just gone home like 3 days earlier because I had my mom and my dad and my sister and my niece and my husband. They all flew out to watch the games, but I was sure I wasn't working the last day. So we sent them home early. Like they, and she's like, she's bawling. I'm bawling. And I call my husband. He wasn't bawling. He's like, okay, cool. Yeah.
Now, is he a hockey guy at all?
No.
No, fair enough.
But I'll tell you, he did go to like there was a Belarus game, and I got him tickets for it because they give us comp tickets for friends and relatives and stuff. And it went into like, I think triple overtime.
Okay.
And he was there for the game. And I'm like, where the heck are you? And then I turn on the TV. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's still going, right? Then he came back from the hotel and he watched the game on TV. And I was like, what's wrong with you? He's like, it was a really good game. I go, you were just at that game. He goes, yeah, I know. And I was like, I thought it was hilarious because I made him go to like 2 hockey games a year. And I remember like in college, because we dated for a while, he's a computer guy. So he's got the CCNA or CC plus book, and he's like, 6 inches thick. And he's sitting up, and it's a national championship. It was University of Minnesota versus University of Minnesota Duluth, and it was in a rink, and the place is packed, and they're pounding, and it's crazy. He's reading the book next to my mom. My mom's like, "Put the book away." Yeah,
that's too funny.
So that's he likes hockey, but it's not his passion like mine is. Yeah.
So. And I can only imagine too, like when you're calling your mom and telling her like you're working this gold medal game, like all the things that our parents do for us while we're coming up through the sport, all the sacrifices we make, the birthdays we miss, the friends we don't get to hang out with, all the sacrifices. I can just only imagine what's going through your mom's head when her daughter calls and says, I'm working the gold medal game at the freaking Olympics. Like, what a feeling for her. And for you to get to do that, just like, I didn't even work the game. I'm sitting here getting goosebumps talking to you about it. So then
you should call her and interview her next. She'd love that.
That'd be funny. Yeah. Well, I'd love to have her on just to kind of like, even for 5 minutes, to talk about what it was like being a mom, getting that phone call.
Or a mom and like, oh, Kelly can't do this. Sorry, she's skating a game, or sorry. Like,
yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I can't go to the wedding, but she might be at the reception for the last hour because she's got men's league tonight.
Yep. Yeah. It's all those things. Like, I mean, all of us, myself, you, and everybody else that puts on the sweater and has, really dedicated ourselves to the craft. Like, we all make those sacrifices. So the Olympics are over. Like, did you take some time off? Did you go get right back to it? Like, what'd you do after the games are over and like, okay, I've reached the top of the mountain. Like, what's next?
So I came home and I can't remember if it was like a qualifier game or if it was WCHA championships or whatever, but I remember going to the U of M, University of Minnesota, and going up in the box, and Greg Shepard's up there. So I kind of talked to him a little bit just to make an appearance when I came back. Cause I didn't have any playoff games and stuff that year because I was at the Olympics and then I wouldn't work the finals cause I was at the Olympics and I came back and I remember sitting down next to Jeff Sauer, who's coach he was the coach, since passed away, but he was at University of Wisconsin. But he became an evaluator for the women's WCHA after he was coaching, which he's just like a grandpa to us. He was just a tremendous guy. And I remember sitting down next to him and having a little talk with him. And he's like, you did a good job. And, this is, I watched you on TV and this and that, whatever. I mean, he was like grandpa. It was just amazing. He's just the greatest guy. And I remember coming back and having a really long conversation with a couple people. Justin Brown was one of them. He's a referee that went to pro hockey and then he came back and he played college hockey. And he's married to Winnie Brown at home, and I reffed a lot of their leagues. So I became friends with them. I had a talk with him. I had a talk with Michael Heikert and a couple other people. And it was like, I didn't know what to do when I came back.
Yeah. Because
after chasing a carrot for 13 years, I ate the carrot. I came back and there's no carrot to chase anymore. It was like, I didn't know what to do. So it was really hard for me. And they equated that crash to, they went and worked minor pro, and then they came back to Minnesota and then they weren't working minor pro anymore. And they really helped me through a lot of tough times with that, because I just didn't know what end was up.
Yeah, it's tough. Like, you're like, okay, I've done everything. Like, I've like, even for me getting to the level where I've been at the last few years, working full time. I went from working full time then to part time, and it's like, okay, so this is where I got. What's next? Like, what do I do? Like, do I keep doing this? Do I move on? It's definitely a tough thing, especially I know pro hockey for women's up and coming. But that wasn't there, 10 years ago or 11 years ago now.
There's a couple of them working right now, I think. And there's a couple women working men's college hockey, D1 hockey.
Yeah, I believe Katie's working D1
Katie Gay,
men's. Yeah, Katie Gay.
And I know that Chrissy Langley in Minnesota was working D1, the men's WCHA. So there's a few out there. I think Aaron Blair worked a game. I don't know if I think Kendall worked a couple. I know there's a few now that are really trailblazing right now. But when I came back, it's something that I would have had to give up a lot for too. And I was newly married and I wanted to have a family. So that really wasn't on my radar either. I mean, if that gets thrown in my face and it's something that I could do a couple games here or there, that would be fantastic, or work a season or something. But that wasn't something that I was ready to drop my life, drop my career, drop my
because of everything you just had given up to go and get to your ultimate goal. So then obviously you guys start a family. How old? And you have 3 kids, correct?
3 kids. I got Connor, who's 8, Cole, who's 5, and then Kylie. She's a bruiser, man. She's 2. She beats up on her brothers all day. And Cole plays hockey, and Kylie probably will. She does in the garage. But they all play soccer, and Connor's been playing basketball at school, so that's okay too. I used to play that. It's okay.
That's awesome. And which was it? Your 5-year-old that was with you at the rink when I met you guys at Stadium that first time?
Okay. He just goes, man. He is my hockey player. He just loves it. He gets mad when he has to miss and stuff. He loves it. Yeah.
So, and now, like, years have gone by. You have the kids. You're doing the mom thing. You're around the sport, and now, like, working just here locally, doing. You're doing the junior stuff. You're doing some youth hockey. We did the last 2 weekends. And now really it's all about giving back, I would assume, working with the younger and up and comings.
Yeah. So once I kind of figured out my carrot was gone and came to reality with that, and tried to figure out, one of my mentors goes, well, go have a baby, then you'll find a new purpose. He's like, that's the best thing I've ever done in my entire life, and you don't understand until you have it. So just go have a baby and it'll be fine. And I was like,
okay.
So that was his advice, and we were married, so it was okay, whatever. But so then the other thing that I like, my kids, like I put a lot of time into my kids and effort, because you should, and I'm responsible for them. And I like them too. I like them. I love them. But the other thing was that I did do a lot of, I did a lot of mentoring and evaluation and stuff like that before, but it really did give me more time to do it after. And I'm pretty proud of some of the kids that, I mean, literally, like, one of my kids is, she's got her own job and she's all grown up now, but she was 12 when I got her as an official, and got to mentor her and do different things. But that's, I say that's how I get my warm and fuzzies now. Like, I'm not going anywhere. Like, I'm, I'm as good as I'm getting right now. Like, that's it. But I'd love to see anybody. I'd love to help anybody I can, and then see them surpass me. That would be my ideal goal.
Yeah. I mean, and that's, when we're in the positions in our careers where we're at now, like, even myself, like, I work a couple of games in the coast here and there, but my goal now is to better the officiating in our state. And then the next guy that wants to chase the carrot, to steal, your term there. That's what I want to do. I want to be able to And as all senior officials, like this is just isn't myself and Kelly, like when we're on the down part of our career, it's everything that the game has given us. It's time to give back and help the next guy go get the experiences that we did. Because the things that we get to do as officials, I wouldn't trade anything for what I got to do. And the last few days with some of the stuff that's gone on in the officiating world, I've been talking to some of the guys that mentored me, and one in particular, I'm not gonna throw names out there or anything, but he gave me my shot at working pro hockey, and I'm forever grateful for him and letting me get those experiences that I've had that I wouldn't trade for anything. And your mentor there, you mentioned Greg, right, was the guy that called you to work WCHA when you first started, and then after the Olympics you get to go sit and talk to him. Like, how cool was that, like getting to sit there and like kind of reflect on, he's the one that called you to come work college hockey, and then you make it all the way to the top of the mountain. So developing officials is really what's next, I guess, for all of us in the more senior role. So
it just makes you feel good to see somebody else get an opportunity, whether it's something you had to do with or not. Just be proud of them. I mean, you're like, it's a mama duck thing. It's just fun.
Well, you're certainly mom in the room, bringing in your snacks and the oil that you've been you're like, here, let me use this for the swelling. I gotta fix everybody, make sure everybody's fed, and make sure you feel good. That's all. Well, we certainly appreciate it, that's for sure. It's definitely been a breath of fresh air having official like yourself come down and join our team here in Florida. And obviously those of you that are watching the podcast on YouTube are getting to see her background with the swimming pool and the trees and the sun's out. So y'all up north can be jealous of us down here in Florida getting to enjoy the sun.
Or you just come visit, man.
Yeah, exactly. Everyone's more than welcome. Come on down.
They've got some really amazing officials down here in Southwest Florida. It's like a hidden gem. We don't want to tell anybody about it though, do we?
Oh, I know. I tell you,
these guys are amazing down here.
And we have so without really diving into the high school state championships, the staff that we had for our high school state championships, and a few people that I've talked to this about, like Randy and our state supervisor, that staff could go work a national tournament just of all Florida officials, and it'd be one of the best you could have, like the guys that we had on our roster. So yeah, we are kind of a hidden gem as far as hockey officials go, because when you think of hockey, and Florida is one of the last things you think of. And we definitely have a crew down here, that's for sure.
I wasn't even gonna bring my hockey bag, and then I'm pretty glad I did. Like
we're all glad you did, that's for sure. So I guess with that, I greatly appreciate you coming on the podcast and sharing your experiences. Actually, I gotta ask you one thing. Throughout your career, what's one good story that you can think of on the spot that you'd like to share?
Oh,
because I always like to try to get one, like either something funny that happened, maybe a one-liner with a player, anything.
Oh, I'm trying to think. Like I was telling, I got a few of them, but I'm trying to think of what's about. Like never on the spot. Come on, Ross. There was a game. We drove to Spooner, Wisconsin, and it was Dean Brandt and myself, and he was one of my mentors. And we drove to Spooner, and we got there, and it was supposed to be a 1-2 game, right, for junior MJHL or MNJHL now. They renamed the league. So junior B, and they get kind of messy and they fight. Used to be able to do one fight and then sit for 5 minutes, and the second fight you go home, right?
Yeah.
And then the other part of it is we did offside pass and touch icing.
Yep.
During that time too. I think I told you about this in locker room the other day. So we get to the rink and our partner's not there. So we start making calls. Well, Spooner doesn't have a whole lot of officials that were around there. So we couldn't get a hold of anybody. So Dean's like, well, we'll just do a 1-1 then.
And you're
Well,
like,
as a
what?
1-1, yeah. Well, as a 1-1, in a 1-2 system, like in a offside pass, touch icing, the linesman does all the work. Like there's a lot of work. You have to do the offside pass, you do the touch icing, you do the offsides. I mean, like it's a lot of work. The referee still calls the penalties and does some other things, but you're doing a lot of skating.
Yeah, you're doing way more than the ref is.
Yeah. So we go out there, we do a 1-1, get done with the game. I'm just gassed and he's laughing at me, because I'm young and he's not, and he just thinks that's great. And he's gonna show me. And I learned a lot. I didn't like him at that time, but I appreciate him now. And so then I'm doing the pre-Olympic tour for I think it was for Turin. And I'm going around doing games, and I'm in Chicago and at the United Center, and I'm out there, and Krista Knight from Wisconsin is a referee. I'm linesing with Shelky Brown, who's from Illinois. And the three of us are out there doing the game. It's USA Canada game in the United Center. So we get out there, and Shelky, there's a face-off, like in the third period. I don't know how much time is left. And the face-off comes up, and a stick gets caught in her half shield and cuts her right by the eye. So there's blood gushing all over the face because it's a facial wound. It's not going to stop bleeding, right? So she has to get off the ice. She would have finished if there wasn't so much blood, because the girl is tough, I'm telling you. Yeah. So she gets off the ice because she's got to get stitched up, right? And they trying to stop the bleeding. So we clean up. Kennedy's from University of Minnesota and Julie Chu, they're all helping me clean up blood off the ice so we can get the game going. So Krista looks at me and she goes, "What do we do?" And I go, "Well, we're going to do a 1-1. She goes, "What?" And I go, "It's okay. I did it last week. It's no problem. I
got this."
And then I go, "I got this." So it was, I mean, like everything, I relate everything to hockey and life. My kids, like life experiences, everything. I've learned so much in hockey through officiating. It just plays out. So sometimes you don't like what you're going through in the world or on the ice or whatever, but there's always I'd rather learn it in a junior game in Spooner, Minnesota, where nobody's going to yell at me for doing the wrong thing, than on the United Center, where Matt Leaf and the whole world is watching because it's televised and it's big group. Yeah. And mess up there. So it worked out okay.
That's so awesome. It's just, and it's funny, like that 1-1 in Spooner was supposed to happen because
it needed to. It was meant to be.
It just it's too much of a coincidence for it not to have supposed to have happened.
And it was literally like 2 weeks or a month later or something like that. Like it was so super close. Yeah.
Unreal. So again, with that, thank you so much for joining us this week on the podcast. We greatly appreciate your time. I hope all of our listeners really enjoy listening to your story. And with that, we'll go back to the main episode.
Thanks so much for having me, Ross.
Well, everybody, I hope you enjoyed that interview with Kelli. She moved down to Florida back like October, I think is what she had said. I recently got to meet her one-on-one, like in person. And it's been an absolute blast getting to know her the last few weeks, getting to skate with her and just shoot the breeze. And she's an awesome person. I am so excited to have her part of our officiating team here in Florida. So I really hope all you guys enjoyed the interview. With that, I think Brenden has an ad read for SIG Hockey.
Yeah, we got to shout out SIG Hockey here. Are you in the market for new equipment? SIGHockey.com is your newest source for pro stock NHL and NCAA hockey gear. SIG Hockey is offering Team Stripes listeners 10% off their first purchase with code STRIPES10. That's STRIPES10 for 10% off your order at SIG Hockey. That's SIG, SIG hockey.com. Well, folks, with that, I don't really have anything else to say, Ross, unless you have any final thoughts. Say we wrap up this episode with a bow on it.
So I do want to say congratulations to all of those that are getting to go work USA Hockey Nationals. I think at this point, everyone that is working has been notified.
Yeah, because I was told, I was asked and had to decline, so I'm pretty sure all the final invites have been sent.
Congratulations to everyone working Nationals. All of the guys that are out there grinding in the North American League, the NA3, the USHL, keep working at it. NA3 guys, your playoffs are about to start, and all guys, your playoffs are about to start. I think the USA month. I'm sorry.
Null still has a month. Of
Oh,
regular
Null still has a
season.
month. All right.
Yeah.
Well, all you
Yeah.
Null guys and USHL guys, keep grinding, fellas. It's March. About tomorrow's going to be April. I get it. I've been there. I know how you guys are feeling right now. Keep plugging away. All our minor pro guys as well out there, Coast League, American League. Keep at it, fellas. The light's at the end of the tunnel. Keep working hard. Make sure you get playoffs. And I mean, that's really all I got. So again, congratulations to all the guys working, guys and girls going to USA Hockey Nationals. We have a few people that have been on the podcast that are working. So it's, yeah, with that, I think that's all I have. And I hope everyone has a great week. And we'll be back next week with more of the Team Stripes podcast.